Hey guys, Allison here, the Bored Housewife. Thank you so much for joining me for another week's episode of the Bored Housewife. I do have some fun information at the end of the episode, so please stay tuned for that. Um, but this week we are going to continue talking about Plato. Last episode, we talked about living an examined life and what that kind of looks like. We talked about, people who perpetuate themselves as, these knowers of all things, and how sometimes, intentionally or even unintentionally, they might manipulate and influence us when what really matters is what we're thinking about and how it affects our life, and kind of staying ignorant so that we are constantly open-minded to different ideas and potential truths and whatnot. So I figured you can't talk about Plato without talking about Plato's theories of forms. So I am going to get into all of that very soon. But I hope you guys are having a great Monday already. And still no cocktail or drink. Haven't figured that one out yet. But I have my bottle of water here. So cheers, guys. Let's have some fun. Okay, so without getting too crazy heavy into this, and this is extremely basic, and please let me remind everyone that, I am just as basic of a philosopher as anyone else that is watching this and, relatively new to philosophy. I did study in college a little bit, but, these are just the basic ideas that I took and have kind of stuck with me. And as I'm working on this podcast and sharing these ideas with you guys, I continue to get a better understanding of these concepts as well. And once again, that's really what philosophy is all about. So for anyone who's watching is like, oh my God, she's talking about crazy concepts that I'm scared of or have never heard of, or it's a little heady for me, like, it's okay. Like, this is casual philosophy. This is philosophy for your everyday life. But it's nice to have some, concrete concepts of at least somebody's ideas of somebody respected. It's ideas we can kind of, pull on and think of when we're having, our grand, what is the meaning of life sort of thoughts. Or, just the basic, why don't I want to go to the store today, So a lot of this concept, the theory of forms, can be found in Plato's Republic. It's one of the books that he wrote. And so the form, and I remember this in college, we used to kind of talk about it as in form with a capital F. So the form is this picturesque, perfect version of whatever we have here in our physical world. So Plato thought that there were two worlds, the spiritual world and the physical world. And in the physical world was just merely a shadow of the spiritual world. And in the spiritual world lived all of these different forms. And so it goes from not only a physical thing or a being like a horse or, a coat or, an umbrella or a casserole. I don't know. All these things that are so simple and silly have a form. So it would be horse with a capital H, coat with a capital C. But they also have ideas as well. So kindness with a capital K, marriage with a capital M, justice with a capital J. So a lot of Plato's readings are talking about, these big ideas, and they'll relate to kind of more simpler concepts to sort of like drive the point home. But, a lot of times they're talking about like what is justice, what is ethics, and like, discussing in a, group of people like what those ideas are. And what you learn is that we all tend to have kind of a different idea. So there is this perfect version that exists up there. What we see are the shadows of what that perfect version is. And so that's why the physical world cannot be perfect, because it's not the spiritual world. So with that in mind, I want to incorporate that. Like, how can you take something like the forms and incorporate that into your daily life? And I actually think it's really simple because, so much of what we've been talking about is living an examined life, working towards, different goals, finding, our kind of purpose here. Me personally, I've talked about in previous episodes about kind of having like an empty hole. Like, here are some things that I really value about my life, but there's, this big chunk of my day that isn't dedicated to those values. And I used to have these other values, but I've realized that I no longer align with them. So, what can I put in place there instead? And so, I think, again, throughout our lives, and let me just say this as well, philosophy is a lot of repeating yourself. So sometimes when I'm talking to you guys are like, yeah, Allison, you talk about this every week. It's because this is, again, guys, it's a never-ending process. It's going to continue being this examination and re-examination and re-examination of what we're doing and kind of like the path that we're on, and deciding to go on a different path or go for different things. And so, even if you want to think of it that way, if you want to think of it in a linear way, some people might like to think of their lives as jumping around or, all sorts of things. But I think like relating these forms to our daily lives is really kind of interesting, because it kind of gives an explanation of, where we get these ideas from, what we, society kind of like perpetuates for us, and, the sort of things that we decide are important or worth valuing, or, what we work towards. So as I was saying, like, how does this idea of a form help us, live a more examined life? How does it help us find happiness, or whatever that happiness thing is? And so I was really thinking about this because I think when we think of happiness, we think of, well, not everybody will probably think this, but I think a large majority of society, we have like different pictures of what happiness is, and at different times in our lives as well. So I think, it could be as simple as like the shit advertisers feed us, or the shit that we see on social media or TV, when we're watching sports games, anything that we do, it pretty much, unless it's like, you're just sitting with your family and friends or something, a lot of what we do has something that is enticing us, or, like, oh, you should want this sort of thing. And it's really hard to kind of figure out, like, what is this form of happiness when we have so many different things that are constantly, being thrown at us and fed at us. Like, I will have these moments of, like, clarity where I'm like, okay, like, for instance, right now I get frustrated in this point in my life because I'm now 31. I just had a birthday. And, I still don't own a home. I, want to do the things that homeowners do, right? Like, I want to be able to decorate my house, and I love, like, different colors of paints. I have a very eccentric style. Oh, do you guys like, for those of you that are watching on YouTube, do you like my backdrop now? For those listening, I have a very colorful backdrop, so I had to get it a little bit spiced up in here because it was too boring. But anyways, So, I like to decorate. I have like a pretty eccentric style. So I just like pictures and fun and different. And, um, I just would love to be able to decorate a home and just stuff about picking my own appliances. Like, I know that's like, I'm such an old person now, but I'm like, I want to like have like nice stuff that I picked out and like spent time like researching and like, oh, this is going to be the best one for us. Like, I'm just really tired of the renting process and, just kind of having to put up with what's given to you and all of that. So I get in these little swings, like mood swings of, oh my God, like, and I get all hyped up and it's just like, I want everything right now. I want it right now. And a lot of that comes because I like to look on social media and scroll through different decor pages, and I'm on a few groups on Facebook that like I really love the mid-century modern look. So like, going onto their pages and seeing these people like like fully live in like another era almost. Like not only are their houses mid-century modern, but then like they get furniture from that era or inspired by that era to complement, and it's so cool. And I'm just like, man, I would love to be able to do that. But then I have this moment of clarity where it's just like, dude, it's not your time and it doesn't matter. And so, even unintentionally, like me just having fun looking at something on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, I then get sucked into this feeling of want and, oh, my happiness would be, so fulfilled if I could just do this thing. And then I realize, I'm like, no, that's just stuff. This isn't actual happiness, because as soon as I have the opportunity to have all that stuff and I go through the headache of making all of it happen, then what? And you're just kind of like left stranded to you like what, want something else, do something else. And so it's this kind of like vicious cycle. And it's like we all know this. Like it's not a secret, But it's just like, what actually is happiness with an H? And so that's something that, lives in the spiritual world, and it's something that we all work towards, but it's also something that we all have very different definitions of. So, for me, it might be, when I really think about it, it's like, being content and living my day to day and not feeling stress or anxiety, getting to see and do things, and spending time with my husband and my family and friends, other people's might look somewhat similar, but, have some like different other things. And it's not that like having things is important. Like for some of us, like having a house might be a huge goal of happiness, but the value of having the house isn't just necessarily status, it's to provide for my family. So we all have like these different ideas and values that go along with this. And like I said before, this applies to marriage, this applies to your friendships, this applies to any sort of like abstract idea of what, we have and, what we can work on and build better. So it's like, happiness is it, it's not a Chanel bag. It's not like a new golf clubs. And it's not Jason Momoa, even though it's now on the market, ladies. I'm married. I'm happily married. So, Jason Momoa, you had your chance and you lost it. Okay, buddy? No, I'm just kidding. But, like, even that guy, like, he got divorced from the love of his life. Like, I don't know, I'm sure you guys have heard this story, but, like, he talks about watching The Cosby Show with Lisa Bonet on it and just, like, already fell in love with her just from watching a television show. And then, got to marry that girl. Like, that doesn't happen to everybody. He's this, like, kid from Iowa that got to do that. And it's just like, holy shit, like, that is so crazy. But, even him had this idea of what love is in marriage. And obviously, he found out that what his ideas were did not align with what he chose. And so, I think it's really important for us to really think about what these things are, but then to also just realize that, like, with time, things are going to change. And especially with people, our ideas, and you hope to change with people. You hope to change with your friends. You hope to change with your family. You hope to change with the person you decide to make a life with. You hope to change with your kids if you have kids. Like, people are so complex, though, and it's just like we can't make people do these things and have the same ideas as us. But that's why it's good to be open-minded and, to continue to just work on things and share ideas. Keeping all this to ourselves and not sharing, like, what our visions and our feelings are towards things isn't going to help us express any of that when we're working towards goals of, like, what the capital F is for that. So, like, what I was talking about is a lot of those things, because you might be sitting there being like, well, like, I really do want a house, and that would make me happy, Allison. I work really hard at my job. I save up money. Or, you have, like, this goal to buy, like, an expensive designer bag, and that means something to you, and that's totally fine. I think a lot of these things bring us pleasure that, feels like happiness, and, but there's a difference between that fleeting, like, euphoric moment of, oh my gosh, I have this new beautiful bag, or I am now dating Jason Momoa, compared to, or Lisa Bonet, if you're a guy and you're into beautiful women like her. So, um, but, like, it's like, yeah, those things might bring you pleasure in that moment, but it's important to realize, like, what's pleasure and what is actual happiness, and what, in the end of all of that, is actually going to be there for you. A designer bag or a new, piece of sporting equipment or something, like, is really fun at first, but eventually they make something better, or there's a new style that comes out, and, that might not be as relevant anymore, and you might find less pleasure in that thing. Buying a house, like I said, like, there's certain things that I think are kind of materialistic that do have a value of happiness to them because of what they represent. But again, that's thinking bigger than just being like, oh, this is, a house because I want to show my status in this neighborhood and in my community or in my family. It's like, oh, this is a house because I value safety and comfort, and, I want to take care of my family. I want them to live in a nice place, or I want them to live, whatever. And so I think, but when you have those other feelings like behind your purchases, like, even having a car, like, you could buy a really nice car just to have a really nice car and feel good about yourself for a little while because you were able to buy that. Or, you buy a car because you know that it gets you back and forth to work every day, so that, again, you can provide. Or, just makes your life easier, and, you don't have to take a bus or something anymore. And so, or you don't have to ride your bike or whatever it is, like, there's things that when we're thinking of these forms of things, like, everyone has an idea of what a car is, right? Like, we all think of that. We know what a car is. We have very basic understanding, but, like, what I'm picturing as a car and what you're picturing as a car could be totally different things. Totally different styles. Maybe I'm thinking of, like, just a 4-door, like, basic go car, and you're thinking of, like, a huge SUV or something, or, a van or something like that, so, there's just different ways that we kind of think about these things, and, I think that understanding that the form isn't just about the most grand idea of a car. It's not like there's, in the spiritual world, it's like Lamborghinis everywhere, right? It's like, no, like the idea is more, I think, and this is me, this isn't Plato, this is my interpretation. It's more of what that represents. And so, when we're thinking of these things, again, like, what does this actually represent for you? Why do you want to buy a house? Why do you want this new job? Why do you want to get married? Why do you want justice in the world? Why are there these things? And also think about why people have potentially different interpretations than you, and understand that people are going to have different interpretations of you. And so, kind of going back to happiness, like, we actually can't have full happiness here on earth, because happiness, in Plato's theory, is a form that exists in a spiritual world. We can try our best, but there's only so much that we can do, because as we examine our lives, as we work towards finding what true happiness is for us, it's still only going to be a shadow of what exists there. As we work on our marriages, it's only going to be a shadow of what exists of marriage and the form of marriage. And so I think it's kind of really nice having this understanding of that, because it takes off a lot of pressure as well. Because so much of us try to live up to these like grand ideas. And again, like, society feeds us so much shit. Now we have social media, TV, like magazines, everywhere you look, billboards, like everywhere you look, there's something that's telling you how to make your life better. And I'm going to get out a little bit of my grievances here. I don't know if it's just like some of the people that I'm following on some of my social media, but the self-help shit is so fucking frustrating, guys. Like, I don't know what it is. And I think, I was talking to my mom about this today, I think that it's a bunch of women who are into, and it's mostly women, but I'm sure guys do too, that are into pyramid schemes. And they got this shit to sell, and so they create this online persona, and they just are trying so badly to get customers and like sell this stuff, and they just regurgitate the same thing. There's nothing authentic about their accounts. It's like, one trend kind of comes out and like 5 other people are doing it. And I am guilty of doing that, because when I first got on social media, I thought that's what I needed to do, because I was just like, oh, I want to get followers for my podcast, blah, blah, blah. But now that I've gotten and taken this route with everything, I'm like, this is not me at all. Like, this is not fun for me, first of all. I've complained to you guys a lot about that. But it's also just like, I want to bring something authentic, and I don't want to necessarily sell people something. Sure, I would love to drive traffic to this page, but if you're not, like, or to my podcast, but if you're not going to, like, listen to it, at least, like, on a social media, like, have something of value to still give, and not just be, like, this, like, mindless shit. It's just so bleh. I just hate it so much. Anyways. And, I'm not against advertising. I'm not against selling things. Like, if there's a product that I really liked, I wouldn't have any issue sharing that product with you guys. The issue is when you're just, selling for the sake of selling, and, like, I don't know. And it's not even selling for the sake of selling. That's not even an issue to me. It's just, there's just no authenticity. It's just, people just continue to do the same stuff. And, like, in the movies and TV, it's just like they keep making the same things over and over again. It's just like, try something new, try something different, be, original. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I'm just kind of tired of it, because it's like, okay, done that, seen that, great, all right. It's like, is there not a new idea in the world? But anyways, so my point is, there's no perfect thing that exists on this planet, right? We all know that. And so, step one is to stop beating yourself up about it. If you're not feeling overly joyful, or you're kind of having like a slump in your life, that's okay. To me, in my personal opinion, and I can't wait to get more into like the existential philosophy. Anyways, I'm super excited to kind of get into more existential philosophy later in the year. I'm kind of working up towards it because it's really important to kind of have a basic understanding from like what these older, guys had, like ancient Greek guys had to say, because it gives you really like a better grasp on, um, some of these bigger ideas. But, for me, happiness is really about just being content, and like as long as you are alive, and nothing crazy is happening and nothing super bad is happening, then like that's a good day. And so um as long as we're not feeling sad or like despair, um it's really fun to chase the euphoric moments. It feels really good, and I'm sure that's why we do it. But you got to take those the same way that you take the times that you feel really sad and upset. And it's obviously easier to take the really happy moments. But um, basically, it's just, we have to stop beating ourselves up when things aren't 100% perfect, and things are going wrong, because everybody has issues. Nobody lives in the spiritual world if you're in the physical world. So we're all chasing this idea of happiness with a capital H. So many of you are married or moms or dads. There's a form for mom, there's a form for dad. You are not going to live up to it, and it's good to understand that and accept that, because then you can go on living, and you just continue to try your best, and you continue to be open-minded and learn, and take what you can, and be careful of the people that are out there that are, the sophists that are like, oh, if you don't make your own baby food, then you're a shitty mom. Like, no, that's not true at all. If you are a stay-at-home dad, you're less of a man. No, that's not true at all. Like, there's just so many different ideas that people can have. And if you are someone who wants to do all of the things, that is amazing, and you go and do that. But realize that you are still not perfect, and you will never achieve that form of what a mom is, what a working mom is, what a career woman is, what a career dad is, what a stay-at-home dad is, what a husband is, what a wife is. Like, we're never going to reach that fully. So it's great to work our little tails off, and I have been a lot more, I don't want to say motivated. I think next week I'm going to do an episode on motivated and robot mode. Because those words have been really bothering me, because they don't fully express the feeling of just getting up and doing something because it needs to be done. And so I'm going to get into that, I think, next week. But just know, you guys, that, like, again, there are these forms in the spiritual world. We all are here in the physical world, along with all of the things that are physical with us, including us. And we are all mere shadows of what exists in that world, if you want to believe Plato. If you don't want to believe Plato, that's okay. But I think it's kind of a cool idea to think about, because, like I said, it takes the pressure off. Like, knowing and fully understanding. And, I'm not just saying, like, oh, you guys don't have to be good at your jobs anymore. You don't have to be good parents anymore. You don't have to be good spouses anymore. Like, it's really sitting with it and thinking about what that is. And understanding that, like, yeah, there are these ideas that I have in my head. Are they correct, first of all? Who's been feeding me these ideas, Like fidelity. That's a really good quality of somebody who is married, right? Like not cheating on your spouse. Like that's something that a lot of us that are married take very personally and, try really hard not to do. So, there's certain things that are kind of universal that we've, created as a society. Like we have ideas about it. But, maybe for some people, having dinner on the table when their spouse gets home is important to being a good spouse. And maybe for others, that's not it. Maybe there's other things that they do, like giving a back rub every once in a while, or, picking up Taco Bell, like whatever that is, it's like the point is that there's just so many different ideas and it's going to be different per person because none of us know what all of that is. So, anyways, giving you guys something to think about this week. I would love to hear what some of your ideas of the forms of things that are important in your life. I hope this kind of helps you to continue work on figuring out what your values are and, where your priorities kind of lie and the different things that you guys have been working on the beginning of the year, towards the end of the year. If you've been working on anything, some of us, it's just a matter of like existing right now, and that's totally fine too. But maybe it's existing and feeling good about just existing. Maybe it's about, wow, I don't have a lot going on in my life right now and that bothers me. Let's get to a point where that doesn't bother you. Why do we have to have stuff constantly going on to be relevant and important in this world? We don't. So just some things for you guys to think about. Like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media. I am coming back to you guys next week, so I am super excited. That was my announcement. I am now finally, this week I have a full week that I can just work on this podcast and kind of come up with some new stuff for you guys. I am hoping to roll out an email list soon, and I'm going to be starting a blog on my website. I would like to do a monthly newsletter to kind of roll out the different ideas of episodes that I am going to be talking about. So it is still going to require a lot of prep work from me, and we'll see how much I get done in this week and how organized I can get. But hopefully by March, you guys that want to sign up, and I'll have that figured out, and hopefully by next week's episode, I will have something for you guys that I can put on my pages so that you can go and sign up if you're interested in that sort of thing. So I just want to continue to just have this discussion, and I am just, eager to hear more from you guys. And yeah, I think that's about it for today. Anyways, thank you so much, guys, for joining me again. I hope you have a great rest of your week. And cheers. I'll see you soon.